Imagine having so much money from oil and gas that your biggest problem is figuring out what to do when it all runs out. Seriously, for the tiny nation of Qatar, the answer was to make a massive, multi-billion-dollar bet on the human mind. This is the story of the Qatar Foundation.
You know, for any country whose wealth is built on hydrocarbons, this is the big question, right? It's the one that keeps people up at night. Qatar, a country that's younger than a lot of the people living there, has been wrestling with this from the get-go. How do you build a future that isn't totally dependent on finite resources buried under the sand?
And the way they decided to place that bet was through something called the Qatar Foundation. And look, this isn't just some vague plan. It's an incredibly audacious, multi-billion-dollar gamble to completely pivot an entire economy, from one based on oil and gas to one based on knowledge. And they're trying to do it all before the wells run dry.
So, where does an idea this big even come from? Well, back in the mid-90s, Qatar's leadership knew they were in a race against time. Instead of trying to build a world-class university system from scratch, which, let's be honest, can take generations, they decided to do something different. They decided to import it.
Okay, so the Qatar Foundation, or QF, was officially founded back in 1995. Its mission sounds simple, but is actually huge: unlock human potential. Its structure is really interesting. It's a state-led nonprofit, but it operates more like a private entity with this colossal government-funded endowment. The goal, at the end of the day, is to build the brain power Qatar needs to thrive long after the oil is gone.
And right at the heart of this whole strategy is a massive project called Education City. But here's the thing. Instead of just building one giant university, Qatar did something pretty unique. They created what some people have called a multi-university, a whole ecosystem of education.
And this wasn't about setting up some cheap satellite campuses. Not at all. Qatar's leadership literally handpicked the best of the best for specific fields. They wanted a top-tier medical school? They got Weill Cornell. A powerhouse engineering program? They brought in Texas A&M. International relations? Georgetown. You get the idea. The Qatar Foundation pays for literally everything, making sure the education is identical to what you'd get back on the home campus. And just to round it all out, they built their own homegrown research university right alongside them.
Now, this chart is fascinating because it shows you exactly who's going to these elite schools. Half the students are Qatari, which, makes sense, that's the core mission, but the other half is split between expats living in Qatar and international students from all over the world. This mix is totally strategic. It's not just about developing local talent, it's also about projecting global soft power. Basically, attracting people and building influence through culture and education instead of just military or economic might. But the Qatar Foundation's ambitions don't just stop at its own borders. Nope. Its activities stretch far beyond Doha, operating this huge network of global philanthropic and educational initiatives. Just look at this number for a second. Over 5 million. That is just staggering. Through its Education Above All Foundation, or EAA, QF has partnered with groups like UNICEF to help provide quality education to millions of the hardest-to-reach, out-of-school children all over the world.
So it's pretty clear QF is a massive organization with a truly global reach. You've got EEA handling global philanthropy. Then there's Qatar Foundation International, which funds Arabic language programs in places like the US. There's WISE, a global summit that's often called the Davos of Education. And of course, the Qatar Science and Technology Park, which is a huge free trade zone designed to pull in global tech giants and spark innovation right at home.
Okay, but this level of global spending and influence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't come without scrutiny. The Qatar Foundation has faced some pretty significant criticism and controversy, especially in the United States.
Let's start with a really important legal fact here. In the United States, the Qatar Foundation is registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA. What that means is it's legally recognized as an entity acting on behalf of a foreign government. That requires a lot of transparency about its funding and what it's doing. This designation really frames the whole debate around its influence in America.
And this table really gets to the heart of that scrutiny. Just between 2012 and 2019, QAC spent at least $1.5 billion funding different initiatives at 28 American universities. I mean, that is a massive financial footprint, and it's exactly what led the U.S. Department of Education to launch investigations into foreign influence on college campuses.
Now, beyond just the money, there have been some very serious allegations about the kind of content and ideas being promoted by QCF. Watchdog groups have pointed to Islamist radicalism, alleging that the main mosque in Education City has hosted clerics who have praised the 9/11 attacks and have called for the destruction of Jews.
And this all brings us to something that happened very recently.
In early 2024, after more than 2 decades, the Texas A&M Board of Regents voted to shut down its Qatar campus for good. The decision came right after a report alleged the campus was involved in sensitive nuclear and weapons research for Qatar. Now, the university officially cited regional instability, but the Qatar Foundation fired back immediately, claiming the whole decision was just the result of a targeted disinformation campaign.
So, after nearly 30 years and billions upon billions of dollars spent, what is the legacy of the Qatar Foundation? Well, the truth is, it's complicated. Its story is still very much being written.
And this slide really illustrates the two conflicting narratives perfectly. On one hand, you have this incredible engine for national development, a philanthropic giant that's educating millions, and an innovator building a future beyond oil. But on the other hand, you have what critics call a tool of state soft power, one that's using immense wealth to influence Western academia, facing these really serious allegations, and all while operating under the legal scrutiny of being a foreign agent.
So, ultimately, the story of the Qatar Foundation leaves us with a pretty fundamental question. Is this a revolutionary model for how a nation can secure its own future? Or is it a cautionary tale about what happens when huge wealth and geopolitical ambition collide right in the halls of academia?